Genesis chapter 16, Moses writes about a man named Abraham who has a wife. Her name is Sarah. And they are trying to conceive a child. They believe the promise of God. At least Abraham believes the promise of God that he will have many descendants, countless descendants. If anybody can count the stars, they can count Abraham's descendants. But Sarah gets impatient. So she gives her maid, Hagar, to Abraham as a wife. And they do what married people do. And Abraham and Hagar have a son, Ishmael. Well, Hagar begins to despise Sarah. Sarah persecutes Hagar. Polygamy is not a good idea, right? So Hagar runs, and she's pregnant, and she's running, and God meets her on the road, and God comforts her. God owes Hagar nothing, right? The whole situation is filled with sin, impatience, which leads to the mistreatment of other individuals. There's hatred and despicable action and adultery, unholy acts. It's all present right here. But God meets Hagar, and he does not chastise her. God, as the angel of the Lord, a character I believe to be the pre-incarnate Christ, says to Hagar, "You are pregnant. Name your son Ishmael. Go back to your mistress, Sarah. Submit to her authority. And by the way, your son Ishmael will grow into a great nation with descendants more numerous than anyone can count." God gives the same promise to Hagar that he did to Abraham. So when people are impatient, when we are impatient, when we sin against God, if we belong to him, he is faithful to his people. Not only is he faithful to his people, but he goes above and beyond what is required by his covenantal promise to Abraham, because God is a good God. He is a good father. And when we observe the history of the world and nations today, we can still trace out the descendants of Ishmael. Like, God has always been faithful. And I believe there is a great revival and a coming to Jesus that is occurring within the peoples who have descended from Ishmael today, because God is true to his promise. He is faithful to his own word. And when we are impatient with the plan of God, God is patient with us. A character quality I think we are all growing into as we are being conformed to the image of Christ. He is making us patient with one another, patient with our surroundings. Patience is not only a virtue and godly, but it is one of the goals of sanctification, that we be made patient like God is patient. We see this in Genesis chapter 16, despite all the sin that we see with humanity. God doesn't major on all the sin we see there. We do see it. It is bad, but God doesn't major on that. No, God speaks faithfulness, and God acts with much patience toward people he has chosen for himself.